Because it's such a small committee.
All right, you're good to go.
All right, so I'll call the Neary Building Committee Finance Subcommittee to order on June the 26th at 1:18 p.m. So we've got two members here. Mark Davis is missing. We've also got Becky Pellegrino, Mr. Ballantyne, and Mr. Burrows. So hi, everybody. Okay, so let's do the easy stuff. I do have some changes to these minutes, Andrew. Do you?
I didn't see anything glaringly.
Okay, so I'm going to go slow because she will listen to what we're saying as far as how to make these corrections. Okay, so everything's fine till we get to number 5, which is our financial discussion. So this is what I would propose to change this to clarify things. So going down to the 1, 2, 3, 5th, 6th line starts off with a 30% tax increase, and then move on to the end of the line. I would say due to the project construction schedule instead of borrowing tranches based on the cash flow. And then at the first of that, I'd say, and Brian would probably appreciate this, I'd say an estimated 30% tax increase. Because there's a lot of estimates built into what we looked at. All right, Brian. Hey, Mark. So we just got started. So Mark, we're just looking at the minutes from the last meeting to see if there's any changes. So I'd started off with paragraph 5. So that's the first thing I propose. Then I would go to, let's see, the very last line of that first paragraph and say includes an operational override and not just leave it as an override. In the next paragraph, I would add that on the second line, instead of saying these, say, let's see, the right to C for the cost converting. Yeah, I'm trying to emphasize that I want to make sure that we don't mix up the 12 options we looked at with the 12 MSBA options, because it's two different things. We got to our 12 by saying there's 3 base options, C1, C4, and C4 could either have a community center or not, as far as what we're looking at, as far as the impact of this on the town budget. So that's 3. And then we've got 2 different amortization schedules, 20 and 30 year. And then we've got 2 different ways to make payments, level principal or level debt. So 3 times 2 times 2 is R12, which is a lot different than the 12 options that went into the MSBA, but it's going to confuse people if we don't continue to clarify that. So I was trying to clarify that, and what I wrote doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm going to leave that alone. And then I went down to the paragraph where you guys are talking about the dewatering cost. And all I did was add in that first line, Mark Davis and Andrew Pfaff have expressed concerns about the cost of the dewatering, given our committee is a finance committee and we're not talking about the overall site issues. That's in the big committee. So I'm just trying to make sure we don't go beyond our scope as far as that goes. All right, then this is where I need some help. When you go down to public comment and Tim Fling, look at what she is saying, he said, and I think that's not what he said. He was actually trying to get us to look at Woodward as tool to make changes to expand, etc., not just to. He also suggested including a cost comparison for adding to Woodward School. So I'm just trying to clarify. He wanted us to look at Woodward as adding the grades to it, unless you guys disagree with me.
I don't remember.
Yeah, so let's just fix that, because I know that's what he was doing, because I know I was surprised given how close he lives to it. All right. Okay, so that's all I've got. Mark, do you have anything for the minutes from May 29th? And you are muted. You are muted.
Printing them off. Give me a minute.
Okay. All right, so we can come back. So those are just my, so we'll come back after you've looked at those. Okay, the next one is we've got 2 invoices to approve for the month of May, the normal 2 Skanska and Errol Street. Andrew, any comments?
Nope, besides my usual. Becky, everything looks good to you?
Yeah, I just had a question for Jim and Jessica, because I know we went back and forth on the checks that were sent and the credit. Does this reflect a credit, or is this the actual amount for Skanska?
Yeah, so this is the actual.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. No, that's perfect because I guess that first check, there was a stop payment, so I don't think it was honored by the bank, so.
Yeah, we're working through that with our accounting, so.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay. No, I'm good with this then, Andrew.
All right.
So just to be clear, what's going on is there was a concern about the address for Skanska. And so given what happened to Arlington recently, which involved a redirection of a vendor payment for a construction project, there was either one or two checks, payment stopped. And I think that Becky and Skanska are getting that resolved so that we understand what to do going forward and we know what the right address is to remit payments, I think.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay, all right. Okay, so, Mark, have you had a chance to look at the two invoices?
I'm looking at them.
And Jim, I assume that the 14776 collection center drive is the right one?
Correct. Yeah, they basically centralized where all our payments get sent. It used to get sent to the individual offices across the country, and now it's centralized. So
Just making sure that on this invoice, it has the right one.
yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I didn't
corporate
realize how
structure.
big Skanska was until recently, and I've been to two cities and there's big Skanska projects, big, billboards with your name there. So yeah, you're big.
They had Jim's name on it. That's pretty cool.
Yes,
It is, absolutely, absolutely.
it has its pluses and minuses.
I understand, believe me, I understand. Andrew works for Santander. I worked for Ernst & Young many years. So, and Mark
Yep.
is, so we get it. We get it.
I'm all set.
Okay, all right. So Andrew, if you're all set with those invoices, I am. You want to make the
Yep.
motion for payment?
I
of those?
move that we approve Skanska invoice number 132-833-15403-9 in the amount of $4,160.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Mark,
aye.
and Cook is aye. So 3-0 to approve the Skanska May invoice. Andrew,
I move that we approve Arrow Street invoice number 729567 in the amount of $34,440.
Second,
roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Mark,
aye.
and Cook is aye to approve that one. So there you go, Becky. Okay, Mark, are you ready for the minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so do you have any further changes to those besides what I did to paragraph 5?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, we're also going to have her add that whole projection workbook that we showed, so I'll get that to her too, as far as number 4 goes. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 29th, 2024 as amended.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Cook is aye. So that's done. So now we're all caught up with minutes, and thank you again, Mariana. You do a great job. Okay, so now back to the crux of the matter, the budget. So I have requested from Arrow Street the details that they have as far as the estimates that their estimator put together for the PDP. I hope I get them very quickly. I don't have them for this meeting, so there's not any new information to discuss that I'm aware of. So we still are relying on those estimates that were included with the PDP. They haven't been adjusted for the changes in square footage that have occurred since the PDP was submitted. So they probably are a little bit less at this point, but we don't know what the number is. So I think we've got to get the details to do our job, and we've got to understand what the site cost, extraordinary cost are that they believe versus the ordinary cost, if there is such a thing. So I've asked for that to separate that, so we really can understand what all this remedial work is at least estimated to cost as far as what we know today. As I think you guys heard at one of the last meetings, I think the last one, I am just skeptical that all that was built into the PDP because he or she didn't have that information at that point. So I know there's a contingency. I know that's big, and maybe that's enough to pick it all up, but I'd still like to see it all before we discuss this again. And then we may have to start meeting more frequently, given what this schedule looks like. I mean, we've really got a month to truly decide whether we're ready to vote on this or not. And we may not be. I'm not there. FYI, there's just too much missing as far as it satisfies me that we've got enough information to be able to tell the town, this is what we think it's going to cost, this is what we think it's going to do to your taxes. If it were a smaller number, I wouldn't be as concerned, but it's just too big to not have more information. So that's just one person's feelings, but I do want to see what they put in. So I'm assuming I'll get it pretty soon. Because they're usually pretty responsive, but I did ask for it on Monday and didn't get it. So I thought, well, maybe I didn't make it clear what I was asking for. So I've asked for it again today. So
Yeah, Kathy, yeah, if you just copy me, because we could get you the estimates.
okay, I copied Jason. I was trying to be careful
Okay.
not to copy. Yeah, I should have copied you.
Yeah, no problem.
Um,
Yeah, just let
okay.
me know if you don't see him, just let me know and I can shoot him over and I'll chat with Katie. I owe her a call anyways, so.
All right, and so I'm just going to forward you the email when we get off this meeting, Jim, so you can see exactly what I asked for. So there's nothing lost in the translation.
Yep, that works.
So Brian, do you want to make any comment about this? I mean, I don't think I'm in this boat alone as far as being concerned about the impact on taxes. Given we're looking at an override without the project, given we've got other things that are going to be large expenses, including the library, if that goes through, given we've got a lot of work to be done on roads per the recent study that we just did on those. I just think we've got to dig a lot deeper than we have so far as the estimated cost. I heard what Stansel said the other night as far as, and what Chris ever said, but I'm not sure that either really understand truly what the impact of this project is going to be on the average tax bill here.
Yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiment, and you know, I'm really concerned on the odds of this getting through town meeting and in the ballot, especially.
Yeah.
I just, with these numbers, it's massive. I mean, think about 5 times public safety.
Yep, exactly.
And you're looking at a library in the mix at the same time.
Yep.
And
And close Finn, we're looking at a community center at Finn possibly too, on top of this.
Yeah.
So just, just layer. So I just think, if we are going to bring a project this size to town meeting next April, if we can make that schedule, then we've really got to have our ducks in a row as far as being able to answer all questions, including these issues we have with the site and the cost, because Mark, this is much more your area than mine, but I've never seen a project where the site didn't uncover new things once they started digging that added to the cost. So we've already got problems, and I just anticipate we could have problems that we know about right now that adds more to the cost. It goes down, right? It always goes up. They're always going to have change orders that go the other way. So I'm just concerned that we are nowhere near having enough information to truly stand up in front of town meeting and answer all the questions that we're going to be asked by different groups of people.
Yeah, I think, Brian, the other thing that maybe we can work together on is, one of my concerns is also where are we at from a regular budget standpoint, and are we going to need an operational override this next election or next voting period, or are we going to need to, tee that up for a future one, right? I think my concern is that we're going to be so close to it for next year that we might need to not only approve this project, but also approve an override at the same time. Or are we going to be out a couple years? So, I know we still don't know what's going to happen with, the public safety study and what's going to happen at fall town meeting in terms of adding additional costs, but especially in light of that, if that study comes out and we're going to add additional staff and add additional costs, or we're going to increase the budget in fall, where are we at from a levy capacity with Paul and new growth, et cetera? And do we need to seriously consider also having on that same ballot an override?
yeah,
So is that how it works, Brian? If we think we need an override for fiscal year 26, do we bring it to town meeting that this is this? So we've got to get town meeting to understand that, and then we take it to the ballot the following May, 2 months later.
yeah,
So in
Yeah.
other words, they approve a budget that requires an override, and then we take the override immediately to the voters.
I believe so.
It just
So
has,
long since we've done one of these, I
I know, me too. That's my problem too. Okay, so in other words, the April projected special town meeting is in between those two.
Yeah,
So we possibly say to town meeting, this is a budget and FYI, it's going to require an override. And then a month later, we go and say, now we've got this really big project. But we already asked for an override. They had nothing to do with this. So, we've really got to think through this if we really want this project to be approved and
Well,
not truly start.
And it's
over.
probably, thank you for that previous override. We also need another new override for this project.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
no, there would be excluded debt, so we wouldn't need the override.
It would be excluded debt, but it's, yeah, what Kathy's talking about is pretty ugly. Well, what you're talking about too is pretty ugly. And I almost don't know how we don't have a hiring freeze right now. I just, adding staff with looking at these projections is just, I realize there's reasons to do it, but wow, it's
But
just.
every year we come up with a reason to do it, right? We say we're going to do it, and then we've got, and I'm in that camp. I've certainly contributed to that. Then we have, 2 or 3 that we think are exceptions that we need to do. So I hear you, but forget whether it's excluded or not, right? They still know it's still going to affect your taxes, right? So I
Yeah.
don't think anybody really cares if it's excluded or not. I care about my tax bill. That's, I don't really care how it got the way it got. This is my tax bill.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get to the point too, we really can't do anything down the road except for this project. It's just what we're going to do for 30 years. And there's nothing else that we can contemplate that is significant. I don't think that's fair either.
Yeah, not to go too far off topic, but just an FYI that Jason is starting to ramp up for the new, because the capital plan will probably change a bit this year. So unfortunately, the timing, I don't know how it's going to work out, but he won't have that back until, September-ish or so. So we're a little out of luck. We're kind of working with somewhat stale numbers in that.
I realize that, and as he says, if you look at it, it's got bigger numbers in later years that we usually don't do because we keep kicking the can, right? We keep reducing it back down to $1 million when it really should be 2, so that it's steady now. So because of that, we got 3 and 3.5 built into these things, and then we got the library, and they're going to hear in September whether they get their design money or not.
Right.
So anyway. So I still think we got a long way to go to truly get comfortable that we've got a project that we can, with a very clear conscience, straight face, stand up in town meeting and defend and recommend and try to get approved by 2/3 of the people who happen to show up.
Can I make a general comment? And
Absolutely.
It's somewhat based on what I was listening to last night. I went and read the communications update. And in that update, they had a chart of costs. And I am going to become a very vocal member of the committee if we go down the road of just putting Band-Aids on Neary School. And somehow we've got to put this to bed, because I will really be loud and clear. We're not punting handicapped accessibility in one of our schools for another period of time. We've been doing it since the early 80s, and Neary has never been fully handicapped accessible. Those bathrooms are atrocious for our handicapped kids. And this has been going on too long. So the idea that we can put Band-Aids on it, fix the roof, fix the windows. God bless these people when they find out what the new energy codes really require us to do. But I don't want to space this out. If we're going to renovate the school and keep it and sacrifice our educational program, the renovation is going to include all the code-related issues. And I'll be loud and clear every single meeting. So we have if that's the direction, we have a $30 million problem. And that's 51 million to fix the existing school, or 88 million to put a new 2-grade school in. And we got to figure out what that gap is.
Mark, we voted to either do a new 2-grade school or a new 4-grade school. The only reason that third option is hanging is because MSBA says you got to keep 3. So we kept the one where we substantially renovate for $150 million Neary. So you're still getting almost a new school that way too. So that's going to be ADA. So I don't think anyone is headed toward what you said, but we have heard Tim Fling weigh in and say, why don't you just fix it? So clearly we're gonna have to answer that question
Right.
before so was, but I don't know of anyone on the committee that is heading down the path you just described. I do believe that right now, that was unanimous vote, I believe that night to go, C1 and C4 are two alternatives, and those are new schools.
I guess the reason I bring it up is we're obviously going to continue to hear this. And somehow I don't want to sit on town meeting floor and have this brought up with a PowerPoint of somebody to say this is what we should be doing. It's an argument that's going to raise other arguments. And we got to put it to bed. I happen to agree with you. I just find this coming up each and every meeting from now a different person. It can't continue this way.
And by can't continue, you mean even contemplating repairing Neary. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
All
think
right.
we can repair Neary, but the repair to Neary is a significant, you know,
number.
it's taking
Right.
walls down, right? It's not, we're just gonna slap some lipstick on this thing, roof, AC, right? It's, to Mark's point, I think we need to do a better job of, and again, this is outside of our kind of bailiwick, this is more communications, but there's offices and bathrooms, right? There's, kids, there's special education rooms that are in the old bathrooms, right? So it's, the library is shared space with the media area, which has 0 windows and no natural light. It's just not I went to that school. It hasn't changed in 30 years.
It's a 53-year-old school.
Yeah.
It has served its purpose.
But I don't think a lot of people that have a problem with that school have been in that school.
Correct.
Probably true. Probably
I
true.
think we need to, but anyway, so I think we're kind of getting off of our.
Yeah, but so I think, it's true. So what I think our job is to be able to explain to town meeting, we have done everything we can to sharpen our pencil, but still provide a cutting edge 2024 school that reflects what we know about how to teach kids, so that we've got a school
Right.
that really does reflect the kind of money we're going to spend, and not just puts the Band-Aid on it. I mean, and you're right, just to reiterate this, why would you spend $50 million to repair a school when you could get a new school for less than twice that? And then you could also make the same argument from going from 2 to 4. You don't have to double the cost to get to a 4th grade school. So that's
Correct.
where I'm stuck, Mark, is 2 grade is less, right? But 4th grade is only, 30% more to get to that. And you've got so many advantages with a 4th grade school that you don't have the 2 grade school, which is clearly what the education group wants us to approve, is the 4th grade school, no doubt about it. So I'm just trying to see in my mind, and I'm taking one person, how I can get to that 4th grade new school, and yet know that we've done everything we can to do it as cost efficiently as possible, but not lose anything.
Correct. I'm on the same sheet of music.
Yeah, and I just don't see how we get there in a month. So I'm just going to keep saying that. And there's just, to me, so much work to be done to truly get to the point where we think we've done everything we can to provide the best product. And it really is something that we're going to be proud of, and it's really worth $140 million or whatever the final number is going to be. Andrew?
Yeah, I said on the last meeting, I'm still not convinced that the 305 number is right. I still think it's too padded on a square footage perspective. Why have the same exact auditorium size? You have the same number of non-classroom, space, right? That, the usage has to be half of the larger school. It doesn't make any sense otherwise, right? That I think until I understand that piece, I'm not comfortable with the conversation of, well, it's only a little bit more than the 305. I don't think the 305 is right. I think that 305 should come down drastically.
You mean the square footage should come down?
The square footage,
Right.
which then, of
Not-
course, infers the cost.
Yeah, not number of kids. So I agree. We've got to get comfortable that the numbers that we're seeing truly, we believe, are correct when we look at other projects, and we've seen other projects that look like they cost less than what ours does per student and per square foot, and the amount of square foot. So I agree. That's our job, I think, at this point, is to really roll up our sleeves and understand this, so we can truly say we get it. We've done everything we can to provide a really great school at as small a cost as possible.
So just a couple of things. So I do think looking at the estimates, when they get those over, I do think we'll give some clarity to that. And my thought, and I know this is a little down the agenda, but if we need to have a conversation on the details of that agenda, or sorry, of that estimate, we could always bring the estimator in to answer questions and review it so that, because I 100% agree with what, you know, kind of the theme. We need to get everybody comfortable, especially with the cost. And so, you know, we can work through that as far as the timing of that goes. We can chat with Arrow Street. The second piece to this is the soft cost side. We are waiting on a little bit of direction from the school administration as far as what that's going to look like. And what that informs is the soft cost side of things, your moving costs, your swing space costs. So in the coming weeks, once we have an answer to that, we're going to start to comb through the soft costs. Because we were very conservative on the soft cost side, just to be perfectly honest, because we've had it go the other direction where you start low, it creeps up, and that's the last thing you want to do. So with that, you know, I do think the picture will become in a little bit more focus over the next few weeks as we gain more information. And we are working through the timing of the decision. I have a call into Jason. I just want to chat with him about a couple things. And I can also report that they are going to reprice or update their estimates for all three options. We worked that through with the estimator. We just kind of pushed on Arrow Street and the estimator that, you know, that's what this group needs to get to a decision. So again, you know, we can talk about when the timing is right for the next meeting, but, you know, we have the same focus that we want to get, especially this group, comfortable with the cost, so that, you know, when you report out to the community, obviously, you know, you can say with a straight face that you're comfortable with the current costs and what we're putting forward.
So that's helpful, Jim. And I agree that getting our arms around all soft costs. We started talking about them on Monday night, right? But there's a lot. We're not talking just about you in Arrow Street. We are talking about moving the kids to another school. We're talking about possibly having to spend some money on Woodward to make it more compatible for younger folks, smaller folks. So we've got to make sure we don't miss any of this and everything is picked up. So that's good that they're doing that. Then I still think we've got to do a better job of truly understanding where we can possibly cut out some square footage like Andrew just said. So we may have to have, you know, another meeting with that too, to talk about that. So there's just so many, to me, question marks that we really haven't gotten our arms around. So again, I'm very skeptical of this timing that we saw on Monday night as far as being able to truly vote.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, we're working through that timing. I just want to chat with Jason, so there'll probably be an update to that shortly. Just one point of clarification I want to make sure is clear. Any upgrades to Woodward, and I say upgrades, are not part of this project. So that would
I
be
understand that, but the town's
okay.
They're not part of an MSBA project, right?
No,
Yeah,
but we still got
But they're part of this project.
Understood. I just want to make sure there's that distinction.
Oh,
So,
yeah. We're not looking for
no,
MSBA reimbursement. It's out of scope, but we need to factor it into our decision, just like community center costs if we need to do that, right, et cetera.
Yeah, I say it out loud just to make sure that nobody's expecting the project to carry that budget line. That's the only reason I want to make sure that distinction is clear. So
definitely a below the line cost.
Yep.
Can I
And
ask?
don't forget, there's another one too. They're talking about if fifth grade were to move temporarily to Trotter, they're talking about finding a way to segregate the fifth grade from the other three grades. So that sounds to me like that's money to build something, a wall, whatever, to do that. So that's got to be considered too. And again, these may be relatively small, but we've got such a big number to start out with. It's just adding more on top of it. So we've got to make sure we do feel like we've got our arms around the total. The other thing too, Jim, is the last building that we built here was our public safety building. Jason was chair of that committee. I was on that one. And the number that got brought forth to town meeting was way high. And there's some people in town that know that, and they are going to assume that whatever we bring forth is also way high. So we've got to try not to let that happen. So that's why I keep saying we've got to try to get to a estimate that we think is truly reasonable and doesn't have more cushion built into it than it really needs to be. That one was, it was just based on an architect's square footage cost, and it was about $5 million higher than what the project ended up costing. So it was a lot higher. But again, we were talking $100 million. We were talking $20 million.
Yeah, and just to kind of walk through the process, because I think it's important. So at the end of this PSR phase, we will select an option that will have a comparative order of magnitude estimate tied to it. We will then go into schematic design, which is not, construction documents, but it's a more detailed design.
Yep.
That estimate is a detailed estimate on drawings, on specifications, and in that phase, both Skanska and Arrow Street will do estimates and reconcile them. So at the end of that process, and it should be noted too, there's also an opportunity for value management, value engineering,
Yep.
depending on where the number comes in.
Yep.
At the close of that process is when you get your project scope and budget with the MSBA. And then that's the number that gets brought forth for funding with the district. So I just want to make sure it's clear that, the number that we have today is not the number that we're going to be putting forth for a town meeting or for the vote.
We get that.
Yep,
You've got three
yep.
people in this committee that actually understand the schematic construction. We get that. But my point is, we're going to make a decision on the numbers we have
Yep,
today.
100%.
So that's what we've got to try to. So that's what I was trying to say the other night, but I don't think it really came through when Mary Ann said what she did and Chris Evers did. I get that piece of it, that there's not a lot of information right now, but this is what we're going to make our decision on. And once we made the decision, we made the decision. So if you come back in, March and say, oh, this really wasn't this option that you picked is really a lot less costly than we thought because of X, Y, and Z and value engineering and da. I might have said, well, I would have picked the more expensive one if I had known that, because it really is not as much as I thought. So that's what we're trying to get to here is we really need to do everything we can to truly get our arms around the numbers so that we can make a decision that we would still make knowing what we're going to know, a few months from there. And I know it's hard, but we got to try.
Understood. Yep.
Okay. We got to try. Andrew, anything else? I want to get to the MSBA points in a minute, as far as that goes and our reimbursement rate. But anybody else Mark, anything else as far as the trying to get our arms around the proposed project cost?
Well, I just sent in my letter earlier before the noontime deadline. And it more or less is saying the same thing, that at least on the unknown stuff, we just need to know what the delta is on a lot of this site related stuff, so that if we're comparing it to there is no such thing as a normal building site, but a typical building site, we have comparisons that, hey, there's these cost premiums to locating it here at Neary. We got to do X, Y, and Z, and this is the cost. That's primarily what I'm looking at on the underground and the stuff we have been kind of poking our heads at.
Yep.
The landfill, I just got an email from Bill Cundiff. I think I'll have that meeting. And I'll report back with whatever I have. And there's bigger issues going on with that I want to hear about. But I think we'll have somewhat of a clear direction as to what the impacts of that is.
So that's good. Andrew, anything else as far as construction cost, project cost?
I think it's just, sharpening our pencils and, trying to understand, what the increase is, since, some of the other schools were approved by MSBA in the last year or so at much lower construction costs. Why are ours so much different? Is it the site? Is it we're just being overly conservative? Are we picking weird materials? Are we trying to be too energy efficient, right? Just, some of the questions that people are going to ask is, hey, these schools were just approved at, whatever. I mean, when you look at the chart, right, of MSBA construction costs, ours is off the chart, right, at what it is. So
So just so you know, we're in the background. We're not ready to present today. We're working on some of those comparisons and, escalating some of those projects up to the start date of ours. So that's in the works, just so you know, again,
Yeah, yeah.
nothing to present, but
Yeah,
we're
again,
working on that.
most of the questions I have are questions that either people have asked me or I've thought of, pretty instantaneously that I thought other people would ask, and just trying to get ahead of it. And so we have an answer that says, yep, we looked at that. The Hopkinton School I always bring up because that's one that people in Southborough are very reticent about. Because they said, oh, they just built an elementary school. We need to build an elementary school. Is ours going to be as much as theirs? And that was a 1,200 student school for the same cost, right? So people are, why is it so much more expensive, less expensive, et cetera?
So Jim, that's a really important one. Look, I mean, it's 158 million gross cost. They get a much bigger reimbursement than we do, and that doesn't make sense to Andrew and I. So that's a good one to make sure you really do look at closely, because it is 4 times bigger than our 305, and it's not much more money than the 305 school. So the other thing I wanted to focus on that I do want to truly delve into, and I'm happy to make this phone call. I want to understand how Hopkinton, which to me is a very similar town, can end up with a reimbursement rate that is twice ours. And I'm assuming that what we read is their effective reimbursement rate, not their gross. And if it is, it's twice what ours is, which makes no sense to me. Hopkinton and Southborough, I think, they're twice as big, but I just don't see how we've ended up with such a low reimbursement rate. Our reimbursement rate was 62% last time we did schools. So this, the idea that we've gotten that much more wealthy since then just doesn't drive with me. Sorry. It really doesn't. So I want to look at that closer and just make sure that a mistake hasn't been made someplace along the way, as far as how they've computed that. So I'm happy to do that myself and come back and say, well, nope, this is what they did. This makes sense. And then secondly, relatedly, want to make sure that we really do look at really do a cost benefit of the additional points. So for example, the geothermal, et cetera. And by the way, everybody was, didn't realize there was so much in the Inflation Reduction Act as far as helping not-for-profits be able to reduce the cost because they don't pay taxes. So there's a way they basically get to get a check for whatever tax that they would have paid, except they don't pay taxes. So that's actually is going to be helpful. So I am going to look at that too. But I just want to make sure we really do understand these points, and we really looked at the actual cost benefit of doing something so that it makes sense to do. We just don't do it and then go, well, that only saved us 10% of what we got back. So
The other town to look at.
And I just don't see how we get this done in 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to continue to say this. I just think there's so much homework to be done here to truly know that we've done everything we can to get the product that we want at a cost that is as low as we can get it to.
The other town to look at, Jim, is Northborough, since we share a high school with them. And 25 years ago, the issue was rebuilding the high school was that Southborough's reimbursement rate at 62% was less than Northborough's. So there was a long discussion between the two towns as to how to get this thing to work.
Yep.
I have a feeling our reimbursement rate is way lower than Northborough. And again, I agree with Kathy. I can't figure out why. So they're another one to look at, and our administration, I'm sure, is cognizant of it because that argument comes up every time at the regional school committee.
Yeah, we know because of it too, and ended up in a lawsuit and having to pay more money as far as our share goes. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm happy to delve into that as far as truly trying to understand where they got our paltry 40%. And then I just wish the MSBA would explain why, given that they are a state entity, that they believe it's appropriate to reimburse at $5.10 a square foot or whatever it is, knowing that the costs have soared to $12.50 square foot. That just makes no sense to me. It's a state law that makes these costs be as high as they are, in part because of prevailing wage laws. And then to come back and say, well, we're just going to ignore what we tell you to do on that side, and we're only going to give you, the $5.10. That makes no sense to me either. More to come on that one.
And Jim, I was looking at the MSBA data. they always put like the basis for the total facilities grant reimbursement and then the maximum facilities grant. And I think that's where they come up with I guess the actual
Yep.
reimbursement rate. And then the effective one would be the total project budget divided by or the maximum facilities grant divided by the total project budget. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, so they're basically delving out the reimbursable, and that's your basis, and then exactly how you explain it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so like Newton just did a school that was 27%, Situate 30%. This is total, not even, this is the total, right?
To make sure Mark hears that, Mark, we are no better off than Newton and Brookline as far as reimbursement rates, and that just makes no sense to me.
Hopkinton 38.9, right? And, you know, Brookline's 15, right? That's not very good. Well, that included a parking garage. That's probably not a
So
fair
you're
apples.
talking effective rates now, right, Andrew?
I'm talking effective rate. Brookline's actual rate was 35.5.
Right, which is just a little bit below ours.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, so anyway,
Yeah.
anything to do to tweak that and get that, know what the difference is, and so we can understand that is good.
Yep.
And what if they said to us, oh, we're going to adjust this next year by $300 a square foot? We'd be better off waiting to get it up. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen, that we go, oh, we didn't know that, and we made this decision. We could have saved a lot more money if we had just somehow gotten it into a year where they had a much bigger reimbursement rate. We can't be the only ones complaining about this.
The only thing I'll say is Arlington was at 330, and that was prior to the increase. And that was just prior to the increase, and they did not increase to the new. So, and it did take quite a while for that to shift up to 550.
So it was 330, then went to 550. Is that is that a jump? Is 330 to 550?
Yep.
So I mean, that's a big jump, but still not enough. So it's like they're 10 years behind every time.
Yeah, I think they were proposing increasing it this year, but I don't know if it went through. I could be wrong.
I mean,
Yeah,
the guys that sit on it
I
are
didn't see-
architects and builders, right? I mean, they should have a lot of sympathy for this, you would think.
Right.
So,
But yeah, more to come on that.
Becky, Brian, anything you guys want to add to any color you want to add here? All right. Okay. So anything else, Mark and Andrew?
No.
Jim, you're okay?
I all said that the only thing would be and I'll shoot it to you, Kathy, if I get it, is the perk test costs from Arrow Street. I pushed them yesterday to get something over to us. So since that's under 10,000, I'll probably just shoot it to you, Kathy, and then if you have any questions, otherwise we can direct them to proceed.
Well, wait a minute.
Kathy,
We only got
Kathy,
6 left. We only got 6 left. How are we going to pay for it?
Yeah, I kind of pushed back on the 5 because in the past I've done them and it's been less than that. So
right.
we're going back and
Kathy,
forth
on using Bill Cundiff to dig the holes. Since I'm going to have him in a meeting, I'll ask.
Might as well.
I've got a call into Mark Purple saying, we really shouldn't be asking. It needs to probably come from the selectman's office.
Yeah.
If we use Bill Cundiff, someone's going to pay for that time.
Yep.
But
Well, if we use Bill, Bill pays for it. It comes out of his budget. It's
correct. If
Yeah.
we use a contractor through Arrow Street, we're going to be picking up a lot of costs, including transporting that equipment to the site. So those little test hole pits are going to get mighty expensive. That
Yeah.
4,000 can be chopped in half or 2/3 if
Yeah.
Bill Cundiff drives a backhoe up there and they dig the holes in a couple hours.
So I'm
Yeah.
happy to call Bill. I've got a list of stuff to talk to him about anyway. He's a great guy, Mark. He is.
I
That's
know
correct.
him. I used to develop property in Douglas, and he was the town engineer. So he and I go way back.
Oh. Oh.
Kathy, I'm coming up to a hard stop here.
Okay. All right. So 2 o'clock. All right. Anything else that is properly brought before this committee? All right. I don't see any public comment. Motion to adjourn, Andrew.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote, Andrew,
Aye.
Mark,
aye.
Cook is aye. See you guys.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
will set the date of the next meeting shortly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.